Today I thought I'd do a video on the permaculture design course. I was kind of reliving the last 12 years of my life and how crazy it's been. Crazy in that it's completely different than it was before I got into permaculture. And we just had some guests out last week who are kind of new into the permaculture space. And then every week I'm getting 3 to 5 calls a week from people from all over the world that want advice and input with regards to how to bring permaculture into their life. And there's some very common themes that are coming out week after week in those calls, and even the people that come and visit us. And so I thought it was worth making a video to talk about some of those common themes that I hear, and then our solution, Michelle's and my solution, to managing similar concerns that we had almost 12 years ago. So we'll start with these calls. I mean, one of the things that comes up over and over again when people call us for advice, we always start with our goals and like what's driving them to call us. Why are they asking us for advice or for information? And it usually takes a couple of these questions to really get clear on what it is that they are looking for. Because a lot of people are kind of embarrassed to admit why they're phoning us. And so after 2 or 3 kind of probing questions, okay, why are you calling us? What are you hoping to get out of this? People will say things like, well, I want to grow my own food. Well, why do you want to grow your own food? Or why do you want a passive solar greenhouse? Or why do you want to talk about how to reduce the energy consumption of your home? Why are you interested in harvesting water? All of these things. And after a few probing questions, I usually have to say something like, I won't judge you, just like, what are the reasons? And sometimes I'll even have to prompt them because I can kind of read between the lines. I can see the expression on their face or the stress that they're carrying. And inevitably, it'll come out that people are aware of the kind of instability with regards to the global geopolitical picture that surrounds us all right now. I mean, we've all come through 2 years that probably left most of us with PTSD. And yet this kind of craziness continues on. It's like every month there's another disaster, there's another problem in the world. Supply chains are getting worse. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. And inevitably, as people watch this, they either kind of buy into the drama and get incredibly worried and kind of accept the fact that they can't do anything about it, and it just increases their anxiety, or they start to search. They start to put in keywords into Google and they start looking for how other people are solving this problem. They look on YouTube and they watch videos. And my experience is that all roads with regards to these ideas leads to permaculture. And so inevitably someone will stumble upon one of my videos or come to our website, read a book. And then as a result of that, they'll have, a bazillion questions that they want to ask about how this or that works, how to grow your own food, how to harvest rainwater, how to build a passive solar greenhouse. And so we go through these phone calls, and in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, I can give tons of value in these phone calls for sure. And so I feel good about consulting to these people. But inevitably it comes up, you should really take a permaculture design course because while you might be interested in greenhouses, there's so much more to being successful in a greenhouse than just building a passive solar greenhouse. You need to think about where your energy is going to come from, where your water is going to come from, how you're going to manage the greenhouse from an automation perspective, how it ties into your overall garden plan, where should you place it on your property. And these are all the things that you get out of a permaculture design course. It's a holistic design system to help you sort these problems out. And the anxiety and the frustration and the fear that people feel right now with all of the craziness going on in the world can really be boiled down to, a couple of things. The first one is that you start to realize how dependent you are on these unstable supply chains, so where your food comes from, the quality of that food. We all know that the quality of our food is going down, and even if it wasn't going down, a lot of it is covered in chemicals that we don't want to ingest. And then there's the price of food. Food prices going up. We were dealing with inflation right across the world, and it's funny how our governments are using alternative methods of calculating inflation right now, and they're pulling out fuel and they're pulling out food in order to develop what the inflation index is. But if you put both of those things in, we're definitely in the double digits, and we're probably beyond 10%. We're probably in the 20 to 25% inflationary numbers, and that's devastating. Like that's really hard to manage. And so, how do you deal with inflation? How do you deal with poor food quality? How do you deal with the herbicides and pesticides and hormone disruptors that are in our food? And inevitably, you can go to a farmer's market and get to know a farmer. Those are good first steps. But at some point in your journey, you're going to come to the realization that you're going to need to start taking responsibility for some of these supply chains. And that's a huge responsibility. That's a huge thing to kind of wrap your head around. And so how do you go about designing that in your life? What kind of piece of land should you buy? Once you have that land, do you just kind of throw elements willy-nilly across the landscape and end up burning yourself out because there's a lot to manage in figuring out how to replace all these supply chains, how to heat your house, how to grow food. And so this is what a PDC does. A permaculture design course helps you to navigate all these difficult challenges. And what's really interesting about a permaculture design course is people come for the knowledge. People come to learn about all these skills, how to deal with these problems, how to turn these problems into solutions, how to alleviate that anxiety that you feel as a result of the craziness of the world. And that does happen. And you can talk to thousands of our grads about how they're using permaculture in their life in order to try and achieve these things. So you come for the knowledge, but inevitably you leave with a community. And this is the piece that people don't really think is important when they start understanding the challenges that we face in the world. They think, oh, I'll just go and figure out how to be self-sufficient. I'll figure out how to store food and preserve it and grow it. But what you realize is that this idea of self-sufficiency is actually a myth. You need to be self-sufficient within a community of people. You can't do everything for yourself. And so that's one of the reasons that we love the community that we live in, is that we're surrounded by homesteaders. We're surrounded by people that have similar values and are working towards similar ends. And so a lot of my personal security, my sense of security, not only comes from my own property and from the activities that we engage in on this property, but from all of my neighbors. I have a neighbor that owns a sawmill, and I've got neighbors that grow beef and lamb and goats, chickens and chicken eggs. And so I'm no longer in a food desert living in the city. I'm surrounded by abundance. And inevitably, when you take a permaculture design course, you end up leaving with a community. It's really interesting. We have a Verge Permaculture Telegram group, which you can join if you'd like. And on that Telegram group, we have over 400 people, I believe now, that are actively helping each other, acting as accountability partners, sharing knowledge, sharing resources, and their journey with their fellow permaculture grads, essentially, as they go through their own journey once they've left the course and try and figure out how to implement these ideas in their own life. And so community is another reason that people, sometimes they don't come to the course for a community, but they definitely leave with a community. And so that's two things. So how do you put your own air mask on, and where do you find a community of people that have similar values to you that can help you through your journey? Number 3 is people come for a career or a shift in a career. And the concept of permaculture is really becoming mainstream. I get a lot of phone calls from all people from all walks of life, but especially I find a lot of wealthy people are getting in touch with us now, who want greenhouses or want some of these systems on their own property, because they're also recognizing that they need to take their money, some of their money, out of the markets or out of more volatile assets and put them into things that they can actually wear. And by wear, I mean things that, like assets on their property, greenhouses, gardens, passive solar houses, renewable energy systems. And so if they've never thought about how to implement those things, we help them to think through those challenges and how all those pieces integrate together into a system that makes sense. And so there's going to be a lot. It's already increasing quite a bit, but there's a lot of opportunity to start getting into consulting on these things. And so a permaculture design course is a great place to start if you want to start consulting in permaculture, to understand the dynamics of how these different elements come together. Obviously, you can't become a consultant overnight, but you need to start somewhere. And so for me, I was an engineer already. Taking a PDC helped me to reframe my engineering degree and start consulting fairly rapidly. And so there's this quote I want to leave you with, which is, with regards to the career piece, is that you don't do permaculture, but you use it within what you do. And so you can apply the ideas of permaculture into architecture, into being a dietitian. We've had a lot of holistic nutritionists take our course who want to understand the dynamics of growing food so that they can, learn how to grow nutrient-dense food and then apply that to their practice. And so you can really take these ideas and apply them to your existing career and possibly kind of re-niche or reorient or reorient your career, essentially. And then now, the other really cool thing that's happened in the last couple of years is that people are starting to hire permaculture grads. And so Food Forest Abundance recently contacted us, and we're going to be doing some partnerships with them. And they are going to be recommending our permaculture design course to people that want to work for them, because they noticed that a lot of our grads ended up getting jobs with them. Like, they've hired a lot of Verge permaculture design course grads to help them with their food forest design business. So I'm going to leave a link to Food Forest Abundance down below. And so there's actually starting to be jobs in the permaculture industry. At Fifth World, which is our new enterprise, where we're standing up a cryptocurrency to incentivize the regeneration of planet Earth's ecosystems through regenerative ag and permaculture practices. We're hiring permaculture grads all the time, and so there's starting to be jobs in from conventional companies that are looking for people with permaculture design courses. Lush Cosmetics is another one that's really bullish on permaculture. And so sometimes you're not wanting to necessarily start your own business, but you want to get a job that has a focus around permaculture. And so the PDC can really help you to up your resume in order to get there. And so these are all, reasons why you might be interested in taking a PDC. The reason I thought I'd do this video is that we have a permaculture design course coming up really soon. It's starting in October, but we're going to be opening registration up here in a couple of weeks. And actually, by the time this video gets out, registration might already be open, so make sure you check the show notes down below, and you can check out our new offering. This year's PDC is going to be pretty incredible. We have a whole new list of instructors in our academy, and so I don't even know all the teachers that are going to be teaching the course because I'm not coordinating it. I'm going to be one of them. I know Stefan Subkobiak, Carmen Lamoureux, Mitch Rawlick, Mark Krawchuk, just to name a few, and there's going to be many, many more in that course. And so we cover the whole 14 chapters in the Permaculture Design Manual, everything from methods of design to pattern to trees and their energy transactions, climatic factors, earthworks and earth resources, water harvesting, gray water, rainwater harvesting, as well as broadacre water harvesting, strategies for an alternative global nation, And it just goes on and on and on. It's a very, very intense class. In fact, it's equivalent to 2 university semesters for one class. So one class over 2 semesters in terms of the amount of content that we cover. And we go through all of the things that you need to achieve all of the outcomes that I was referring to just a few minutes ago. How to build community, how to grow your own food, how to build a low energy building, how to manage your waste and turn it into resource, how to integrate livestock into the system, how to grow your own orchard and food forest. And these things build upon themselves. And so what you'll find is that it's not just about food forestry, but it's how the food forest actually connects to the water harvesting system, and it connects to your waste system, so that you've got this circular kind of economy going on in your own urban or rural homestead. And so we've been teaching this class now for 12 years, and we literally have thousands of grads right across the world now. We have a massive waiting list for this course coming up, and because of the pandemic and all of the dynamics that happened there, we moved to an online platform, and so we only teach this class once per year. And it's not available as a pre-recorded class. You actually have to take it. The PDC that we teach is live, and so you're not watching pre-recorded material. You show up 3 times a week with us, with all your fellow students. What's really interesting about teaching it in a live format is that we actually have a 70% completion rate. So 70% of the people that take our program actually complete, which is really high for online education. And that's because we're holding you accountable. We're making sure that you show up every single week, and we're looking for your face. We have all sorts of fun games that we play along the way to make being online a lot more enjoyable. And then we actually help you to design your project, and what we allow people to do is design their own property. And if you don't have a property, you can design somebody else's. But I have been absolutely floored, and I've been looking at design projects now for over 12 years, with the kind of creativity and effort that people put into their permaculture designs that come at the end of a PDC. We even had a guy submit a Minecraft project. So he did his entire permaculture property in Minecraft and submitted that to us, which was just super creative. So if you've been thinking about taking a PDC, you've been on the fence for a little while, or you've just found out about it, or you're dealing with some of the anxiety that I spoke about earlier in the video, please check out the page down below. We've got tons of great staff that can answer any questions that you might have. Plus we have an FAQ, so you can get in touch with them. And I'd really love to see you in this permaculture design course. The challenges of the world continue to grow exponentially, and they're massive in scale, and they can be completely overwhelming if you're just learning about them now, or if you've been wondering how in the heck you're going to manage some of the complexity that seems to be being thrown at the human race right now. However, as Bill Mollison said, as the problems get more and more complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple, and you can literally solve a lot of these problems. We can all solve a lot of these problems just by taking responsibility for our own supply chains. A lot of the issues are created as a result of our dependence upon these industrial systems that are not serving us anymore. They cost a lot of money to operate, they don't produce high quality products, and they create wakes of destruction behind them. And so just by taking that small step and focusing on what you can do to put your own air mask on and surround yourself by an incredible community of people that are here to support you, you can do an enormous amount of good for yourself, but also for the planet and for future generations. The last benefit that I want to talk about with regards to permaculture is how it's influenced my family, my children. I remember being at the beach when Rowan and Naomi were, 2 and 4, or maybe it was 3 and 5, I can't remember. They were young. And we were just playing in the sand, and while most kids were building sandcastles, my kids were building swales and water harvesting structures on the beach, and they were playing permaculture. And so having embedded them into this life that Michelle and I have chosen has meant that our kids are surrounded by these ideas. They're surrounded by incredible people all the time, people that are thinking about these things and applying it in their life. And so it's been so incredible to immerse my children in this culture that Michelle and I live. And I have no doubt in my mind that it's going to serve them beneficially into the future, because they're going to have been immersed in this type of a lifestyle since they were born. And so not only is it good to kind of meet all of your needs, but it's a rich lifestyle that you can embed your family in and really improve the richness of their lives by showing them. And I often think about like how the skills that we encourage in permaculture have become so rare in our world. And so by giving my kids that information and helping them to understand how to navigate these rare skills is going to set them up for success in the future, because now they're going to understand what it means to raise a garden, raise livestock, live in a solar house, retrofit a building. All these skills that they're immersed in will be deeply embedded in their DNA, and ultimately should inform how they choose to live their life down the road. And that's been a really important thing for Michelle and I to imbue that in their lives. So hopefully you found that informative. If you have any questions about the PDC or what you get out of a permaculture design course, please get in touch with us. And I hope to see you in the next class. Okay, guys, talk soon.